Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm glad to have a good friend of mine, Ross Gerber, the CEO and founder of Gerber Kawasaki. This is not your grandmother's stock brokerage firm. He reinvented wealth management and financial advisor for a new generation. He's on TV almost daily, giving advice on CNBC, Fox News, CNN, I don't know, ABC, NBC, all of it. He's got big opinions. He's got a lot to say. Really good guy, an awesome guitar player as well. He kicks ass on the guitar, blues, gets down. You wouldn't expect it when he's wearing his suit behind the desk. But yeah, good guy. We're getting into the market, the economy, FANG stocks. He was an early adapter of social media, both from a user's perspective and a consumer, and also as an investor and advisor. We were talking, hopefully they're not coming to get you guys. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Ross Gerber. Over the last, I'd say, 10 or 15 years, from the outside looking in, it seems like you've really reinvented how financial brokerage firms work, including getting really early on social media before anyone was really using it, and really focusing on a niche. So, tell us a little bit about Gerber Kawasaki, and then tell us sort of what got you from growing up to getting in the financial business to developing this business.
Well,
it's a lot.
I started as a fairly wealthy child here in Los Angeles, and I grew up in a certain way, and I went to the private schools, and believe it or not, my parents struggled to actually afford that. So I grew up with this kind of weird financial insecurity because I lived a really good life, and on the outside, we went to Aspen and all this kind of stuff. But my dad actually kind of struggled to pay for it all. Even he's a dentist and he made good money. But it's kind of that keeping up with the Joneses thing.
Totally
and
relate.
Some of his friends were kind of successful. And
we were the poor kids at private school.
Right, exactly. and actually until I was 18, I didn't think I was that well off. And then I went to Penn and I lived in Philadelphia, and I was like, oh my God, I was really well off.
Well, I figured out when I went to public school after private school, and it's pretty clear. It's like, okay.
You learn quickly
the poor kids.
Once you leave the bubble, right?
Yes.
It takes a small trip. But that got me thinking about money at a young age, because I didn't like finance. I actually abhor financial insecurity. I just have this whole thing about it. So when I was 15 or 16, I was like, how do I become financially independent? I had a little money for my bar mitzvah. I had a few stocks, and my grandfather,
General Motors, General Electric.
Fortunately, I had Apple.
Wow.
I had Disney, and I had IBM and a company called Viacom, which is an entertainment company.
Apple?
I've actually owned Apple and Disney my whole life. I had a brief time I sold Apple, when Steve Jobs left, and then when he came back.
We'll get into that.
But that's one of my secrets to my wealth here is
bar mitzvah money put into Apple.
Is Apple actually, and
I know it. We'll get into the specifics, but you've been preaching FANG stocks before they were called FANG stocks, before people knew what they were or believed in what social media was.
I've always invested in technology, so that's kind of one of the secrets. Is it a secret? I mean, it's where you make a lot of money. Okay, you make a lot of money in technology if you're right.
So you grow up, you have this financial insecurity, and wanted to do something.
I went to college at UPenn, and I took a bunch of classes at Wharton. I didn't go to Wharton. I went to UPenn. I took a lot of classes at Wharton, and I actually was a communications major, which ended up becoming much more my focus in a lot of ways on how I built my business.
You talk so much shit. That was your major.
I know. So I knew media really well. And then I was lucky enough to get into the investment business. I was going to be in the music business, and I realized really quickly in the entertainment industry is just a horribly difficult industry, and
took me a few more years to figure that one out.
Experience sort of, and I was like, I am not going into this business. So I got into investing instead, and it happened to be 1994, which was the beginning of the best bull market maybe ever. And so, and I was investing in technology. So this was the beginning of the internet. And when the internet was started, it was AOL. And that kind of stuff. And so, I started investing in that stuff.
Good, right?
And boy, oh boy, was it good, And so I kind of just was lucky enough to start my career at a great time. And so that went well. And I was running a company of like 250 advisors by the time I was 28.
Wow, that's young to be handling that much.
It wasn't by choice. It was like an insurrection at my company, and somebody had to take over, and it was either me or nobody. And so I took it over, and it was still the mid 90s. You know, it was like too much money and too much greed, and so I took over the company then and fixed it. And just in time for September 11th, you know. And
which company was this?
This company was called ICM, Independent Capital Management.
Yes, I remember when you were at ICM.
And so then I went through some pretty tough times, you know, with the first bear market. September 11th was really tough. You know, it was a kind of an attack on the financial industry, and I knew people who died, not personally, but we invested with people who died.
It's awful.
And it was kind of a horrible time. And most people who are younger today, they remember September 11th, but they weren't an adult back then, and how it affected people's lives for a very long time.
Forever.
And really a grim period, you know, and you know, you look at times like today where things are really quite good, you know, not talking politically speaking, but in real life,
general,
you know,
big picture.
You know, it was a very tough time. And then I went through that, you know, the mortgage boom and then bust. So, you know, I saw this whole real estate thing, and
I remember even talking to you a lot about that as the run up was happening. I remember that was a lot of our
that's a whole other story for a whole other podcast, you know, because I lived through the financial crisis. So after the financial crisis, I was with a broker dealer that was with AIG.
Yes.
And so I was like front and center watching
front
this.
row.
No, I totally remember you know, there were certain things that happened that were just amazing at the time. And one of the things was, you know, AIG was an insurance company, and I remember the revelation that they had something like 4,500 derivative products in their financial, what they call it, financial products division. And we're like, what is that? And they go, oh, that's where they bet, you know, that's their betting division. And they had bet that the chances of guaranteed mortgages going bankrupt was very, very low. So the margin was very, very small
Thin
return.
margins.
So they had bet like 20 quadrillion dollars, right?
Yeah.
And so when they went bad, it was like an unlimited amount of loss, right? And I was like, oh, great. So you insured like how many millions of people, and now you've lost more money than actually existed in the system.
Yeah.
So when I did that math and I knew that there was more money lost that it existed in the financial system.
Is that true?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's exactly what was happening. So, you know,
I'm trying to think. I know
how do you do that?
Like, how could they?
It's called Goldman Sachs, you know, Merrill Lynch, or whatever. These firms,
but literally, like all the money ran out. Literally, I mean, obviously it doesn't run out because the system doesn't work that way. But
let's say you have a
break
casino.
That down for our dummies.
Like let's say you have a casino. Like you go to Vegas and you're going to bet Tiger Woods wins the Masters. So the odds were, let's say, 15-1.
Yeah.
Let's say a guy comes into your casino and he says, I'm going to bet, I don't know, $20 million, 15-1. What does the casino say? We can't cover it. Can't bet here. Maybe we can spread it among a couple guys, but
we're not going to take on that risk.
And that happened with the guy who bet $85,000. You know, a bunch of casinos, the risk was $1 million. He was turned down by 2 sports books. So they know what their capital margin is. They know what their odds are. And especially with golf, because you have some percentage that's fairly high of the win, like you make 15-1 or 10-1, you can't really cover it all versus sports betting like the Patriots versus somebody else, and then you're like changing the spread, but you kind of even out your bets on both sides. So if in investment world, the public can't just bet indefinitely, but the institutions can. So if they bet with each other, and they're called derivatives, on things, it could be anything, but it has an unlimited potential loss, well, that's what happens. And so a lot of people think it's really smart betting on a low probability event, so you have a low return, but since there's such a low likelihood of it happening, you can bet a lot of money, and your chances of making
pretty
good money, it's big. So if I bet $10 billion on a very small margin, it adds up that I net maybe $1 million. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, if it's not my money, right? It's the bank's money. It's esoteric money. The trader will make that bet. And then when that loses, it was like, oh, who's going to cover it? So it was the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And so anyways, you know, that's why this banking regulation, as much as they hate it, as much as JP Morgan hates it, and you hear about it all the time, Dodd-Frank, and bank stocks have not done well because of this regulation, because they cannot bet anymore. And a lot of the laws that came in is cumbersome as they are, and as hard as it is to get a mortgage, and what really makes your job difficult, if you look at real estate sales, for example, like real estate sales would go up substantially just if lending had
loosened
changes.
up a little.
Absolutely. I mean,
they overcompensate.
It's not even just loosening up. It's like the entire way it works now has to kind of be fixed again, because they have to actually bet their own money. And of course, they don't want to bet their own money because it's a lot better betting your money, somebody else's money, which is the way banks work. So we started our firm.
Yeah, let's get back
after the financial crisis.
That point of you starting Gerber Kawasaki, which is so sort of, I don't want to say revolutionary, but it is different. It didn't exist before.
Because we were lucky enough to start after the internet, after the financial crisis. So the first day
the bottom already hit.
So the first thing was, we were like, the brands don't matter anymore. Saying you're with Merrill Lynch is not an advantage.
This isn't your grandpa's Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley.
I'm at this firm and that firm.
Doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter anymore. So we'll start our own brand. And plus, we don't want to link ourselves to any other brands anymore, because who knows what they're doing.
Negative.
It almost killed
appeal,
us.
They destroyed.
Literally almost killed me. That was actually the only other time I had financial insecurity since my childhood, was when I almost lost all my money, which I almost did, which was great.
Lovely feeling. Great. Wonderful.
It was. But I figured if the whole system went down, it wouldn't matter anyways, right? You know, everybody was going to be poor.
Everyone starts at zero.
It was the Great Depression. No, the Great Depression could have happened again. And you have to give credit to Bernanke and Obama and Geithner and that whole group of people. Whatever they did, that mess, it ultimately worked.
Yeah.
So, thank
whatever
God.
levers were being pulled and
whatever. I think it was just printing lots of money.
Just quantitative easing.
Just
print the money until we get out of it.
Refi.
And we still are.
We're still printing lots of money. And, now they even have a theory that that's okay, which is great.
Just keep printing and now it's okay.
They call it modern monetary theory or something, where it doesn't matter if you keep printing your own money, because, who cares? And I was like, oh, that's a great theory. You should try that for a long time.
All right, so let's get to you starting at the end of all that. So we started
Gerber Kawasaki, and the idea was, instead of being bricks and mortar, real estate's the same issue, where you have, like, let's say 50 offices around the country or whatever. Like, why do you have these offices? It's like, actually everything is about leveraging technology. And plus I have to manage and oversee this infrastructure. So overseeing infrastructure is a whole business. It's irrelevant of selling real estate or securities or whatever, just like managing infrastructure. So like, I hated that part of my job. And I had 15 offices at one point, and I was like, I would rather like die than fly around to 15 offices all the time. And then you do these meetings, you try to train people, you have no consistency. So if we put everyone in one place, and like use video technology to reach the entire country, and now they have this incredible thing called WeWork. So you don't even need to have offices. You can just go rent one for $100 a month and go use it as will, which is what we do.
Just with my WeWork buddy Michael Gross the other day.
It's the greatest thing for us, and it's the worst thing for them. I don't think it's a great business model personally.
Well, they're losing billions, but
they have to, because like you're leasing space and then selling it by the piece. That doesn't seem like a great business model to me. But I don't care. It's great for me. And they do a wonderful job. Actually,
they do a really good job.
And the space.
The spaces are beautiful. I mean, they really
so you don't have to
job.
manage the space. You don't have to do anything, and you can have locations anywhere. But it's all about mobility. So it's like, how do we leverage?
Are you using that? I mean,
we use it in San Francisco.
Offices?
Yeah, we have it in San Francisco.
Okay,
now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because there's so much business up there that we're doing.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. $100 a month. I mean, I just pay by the hour. I pay by the hour. How many hours do you need it?
Yeah.
So we go up there. You want to meet us in there? Great.
I would think that's a great market for
San Francisco is incredible.
That demographic would relate to what you guys do.
This state is doing very well right now. When you look at technology, from LA is actually quite a tech hub now.
Yeah, for sure.
Up north
Silicon
too.
Beach.
I mean, the amount of power and influence technology companies from California have today is, unparalleled in history. Really, I mean, the cash just on the books.
The amount of money,
it's crazy.
It's insane.
So we started the company, and then the second thing was leveraging social media. So we were the first.
This was
company.
early. What year are we talking about?
This was like 10 years ago. So Facebook was still just coming off being. You had to have a college email.
Yeah.
So I was
It
like
was
trying to take.
very early.
Yeah, my stepfather was chancellor of UCLA, so I was trying to take his UCLA email to get on a Facebook. You know, and he's like, you can't do that because I'm chancellor, and they'll be like, oh, the chancellor is on Facebook, and he still refuses to go on any social media.
The chancellor hacked Facebook.
I know. I was like, well, you're smart. You can just live your whole life and avoid this nightmare.
People don't understand. If you say Facebook today or you say internet today, they don't understand. It didn't exist.
Well, it didn't exist. So we started posting on Facebook, and immediately regulators and compliance people
like, what the
had
heck
a heart attack, right? And so they start showing up, and that was about the time of the financial crisis. So what had happened was AIG went out of business, and they fired everybody, and there was no compliance officer. So we were just posting away, and there was like nobody. And then the lady who came in was super smart. I think after they cleared out all the idiots, they brought in, because the government kind of owned AIG, they brought in some pretty good people. And this lady's like, look, FINRA's asking around, they need somebody in the pilot program, and you guys are really the only ones doing it. Do you want to be in this pilot program? So I used to have every post pre-approved. And
so the government was now watching.
Yeah, it was like, what are the rules that we should have for this? Yeah. And they're still so far behind, making rules.
Of course, they always
with
lag.
Technology. It's not just that; it's also complex with DMing and all this stuff now. WhatsApp, and it's all encrypted, and then they can't watch it. It's all this kind of stuff. So what happened was, and we built thousands of people on Facebook the first day we posted, because back then you could share something and you didn't have to pay Facebook. You could build an audience. It's like, if you're trying to be like an Instagram person today, it's super hard, right? Because Instagram wants money. It's like, that is what it's about. But when Instagram was started, you could build hundreds of thousands of followers because they were helping everybody. They wanted that. So there's a lot of limitations now to social media that weren't there 10 years ago in building an organic, audience, base without having to spend money. But I'm still seeing people do it successfully, and they're just more creative and more entrepreneurial in the way they're getting fans on social media. So, what happened was, then we I got on TV. We had a PR firm, and I got on TV, and then.
Was that through your social media? Like, they saw you, like, hey, we got to get...
It was from our PR people, because we left and we went to this company called LPL Financial, and we got a PR firm that helped us, and then we ended up hiring them. And so I got on TV because everybody can get on TV once. But we were like, boy, we can make this content through these other people and then use it on our social. This would be really good. It's a lot cheaper than making all these videos, right?
Right.
And so... I got on TV, and one of the things
what was your first TV appearance?
It was just a CNBC about Apple or something like that. But it was like, everybody on CNBC is super boring, and like,
totally.
I'm like, nobody cared, and I'm like from the entertainment industry, so I'm like, this isn't about, like, people don't care about like what the stock price is and how the chart looks. People want to know like why the iPhone is doing amazingly well and what's so cool about this phone, because that's really the investment. It's not really about, it's like the thing. I'm the biggest Tesla bull in the world.
You have been bullish on Tesla though
but I'm like the guy
decade.
that everybody has to identify who believes in Tesla and Elon Musk. So it's like me and Elon Musk against the world. And
that's good. You're in
but
good
it's
company.
like, I drive around this Tesla and I'm like, this is the most incredible car ever. I mean, the technology is incredible. I'm going up on Monday to see their full self-driving presentation, and this is the future. I mean, I'm like, literally, it's insane. Like, I went to the factory. Oh my God.
So how does that play out from your view of Tesla? I mean, obviously cutting edge, way ahead of the time. Now we're seeing it become critical mass.
Look at it differently. So the way we invest is based off themes. So in the 90s, it was the internet and putting a PC on every desk. And then in the 2000s, it was mobility and then social media and what came out of it, and search. And so like, all of a sudden the internet had purpose, and we could do it on our phones. Like, this guy's on his phone the whole time.
Yeah,
so how do we make the phones better? So then we were really into phones and laptops and things that, like, mobility, and now that's kind of played itself out. Everything, you can watch TV now.
You can do anything.
Anywhere, like any channel anywhere in the world, and you're like, wow, this is pretty good. So like, what's next? And so that's always the challenge with technology, and I kind of think every decade has its own thing, and we're starting a new decade. So you go like, what's the biggest problems in the world? And one is climate change. So, whether you want to accept it or not, and there's a small percentage of people who are super ignorant and don't go outside, I guess, and don't realize wherever you are in the world, you're being affected by climate change. And I'm super scared of it because, we grew up here and we remember what it was like,
it was very different
how much
weather.
sand was on the beach in Malibu back then and whatever.
That freaks you out.
How much rain we had this winter.
Broad Beach freaks you out, right? I mean,
there is no beach. It should be Broad Rock.
Right, but that's your
I mean, I would go out there as a kid, and what I'm scared of, because I know the science, is that most of what we thought 5 or 10 years ago was like a certain path that we could like get through our lifespan and maybe our kids' lifespan, and then it'd be a big problem. But what's happened is it's condensed itself into like the next 25 years. So like nobody can deny that it's going to affect their life in the next 25 years, especially let's say a real estate company where like you sell people their houses. This is like where they build their families and you want them to have a great experience, and you're selling a 30-year mortgage. So like if you sell somebody a house with a 10 or 20 or 30-year time horizon, and let's say they live up north where the fire area is, all of a sudden the set of dynamics that you're thinking about in buying a home are completely different. And if you're buying a home and you're not, like I've heard a lot of insurance companies are pulling out right now of California fire insurance. For example.
Have to. I mean.
And the math just doesn't make sense when you burn up Malibu and the average house is $4 or $5 million and you lose 400 houses. They're like, forget it.
Yeah,
forget it. I mean, the PG&E problem. Does the state pay for all this? PG&E just goes, I'm bankrupt. So we're dealing with this every day. And what about the next fire next year? And actually this year, even more carbon emission has come out than last year, despite all the efforts people are making. So we're not denting the problem still.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
it's not
in my
even
mind,
a drop in the bucket.
Renewable energy and solutions are not just a great investment opportunity, but a necessity.
Yeah.
It's not
it's
like
a survival
so
mechanism
like
as well.
People who attack Tesla are being very short-sighted. They don't understand. We want to support this company. The government actually funded Tesla to create this solution. It was the only company out of all of Obama's baby pet renewable projects that became successful and paid everything off and is making a huge dent. Every day, Tesla makes 1,000 cars, and that's 1,000 people that will never buy gas again. And it's a huge impact, and production is going higher.
Is cars alone going to make a significant impact?
Not at all.
Just one
cars are
piece.
one big piece of
it
the pie.
Big piece.
Because you get on the 405 freeway on a Friday afternoon.
Big.
Right now, every freeway around here is just packed, and every car is what we call an ICE car. It's an internal combustion engine car, and everyone is emitting CO2, and you're going 7 miles per hour. Now think about how dumb this is. Okay, I literally get in my car, I push on autopilot in the same traffic, I have no emissions, and you can literally fall asleep. It drives so well, and it's like, and humans are the worst drivers. I mean, this is so many people die every year. 60,000 people die in car accidents.
Listen to this. This is a commercial for Tesla
well, it's just fact.
The world.
It's just a fact. It's not just Tesla. It's self-driving technologies.
Yeah.
It's renewable energy. So solar energy now
huge,
is
obviously.
a better return than any other energy. So if I open a solar plant right now, the yield per cost is better than a coal or natural gas plant. There is no reason
let's open
ever
it.
again. They are open, and we're investing in this.
Okay, good.
Next Era Energy, like big public companies are building solar and renewable all over California, all over. There's plenty of great places to do it. There's no reason to build like a natural gas facility anymore because you'll make a lower return than investing in renewable.
The business model is better now with renewable.
It is, and it's taken a long time to get there, and so all of a sudden, we have to have a series of things happen. So you have renewable energy that powers renewable transportation, for example. Planes are a big issue. The amount of pollution's coming out of planes, and is there an electric solution? I don't know, but there's definitely efficiencies that can be made. There's so much in the emerging markets with like air conditioner systems, things like that. So when you start attacking the problem on a bigger level, there's definitely solutions. So that's the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is I'm fighting like tooth and nail every day against the oil industry, the car dealers, the train companies,
everybody on the other side of that.
They hate me.
That's something to lose.
And it's like, I don't care about your money. You've made your money for 100 years. 100 years, Exxon's made money. Just like Philip Morris and their cigarettes. For 100 years, you've made money killing people with cigarettes. Well, they own weed now. Philip Morris bought Cronos.
So that's smart. That was something I wanted to ask you about. How cannabis,
we're big in cannabis
plays into what you see going forward. Obviously,
well, that's a different side of the spectrum. But
but it just as an investment side, you're talking about Tesla renewable energy. What do you think about? There's still no banking system around it. It should be legalized everywhere and should be taxed. That's my view. Tax El Chapo, tax them all, tax Pablo, and then put it into the schools and renewable energy and anything else. That's my personal view.
The city of LA made $62 million. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That's my.
So weed is more a newer
tax
development.
Pablo. That's my.
And it's creating a lot of jobs.
Logo. But what's your take on how long it's going to take to get legalized? How long it's going to become legit?
Well, weed is legal here in California.
Well, right, but I mean,
I'm
everywhere.
A states' right
banking. When's the banking? Can we start a bank, Ross? Cannabis Bank of
No, because it's federal. It's a federal charter.
That's right. But why don't they let it?
There's
what
a
are they
new
waiting
act.
on?
It's called the Safe Banking Act that they're trying to pass right now and get through Congress, and Trumpy's got to sign it. So I don't know, but there's money involved. So there was a deal last night. A company called Canopy, which is dominating the industry, which is owned by Constellation Brands. So we own stock in these companies, and so Constellation is one of the biggest alcohol companies in the world, and they own Corona and Modelo here in the United States, and High West Distillery. I own a bunch of stock in this company, and they bought this company called Canopy, which I own stock in too, which is the largest Canadian marijuana company, and they took that money now and they bought Acreage Corporation last night for $3 or $4 billion. Acreage is a big U.S.-based dispensary growth operation, which has John Bonner on the board of directors, the prominent Republican. And
he's no dummy. He wants to make some money.
Based off closing when marijuana is legalized in the United States. I've never seen
subject to that.
Yeah, I've never seen a 7.5-year contingency.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, and because they know something, that everybody in America should know, that our government is for sale. You book a room at the Trump Suites here in Washington, D.C., bring a bag full of money, and any law can be passed. I mean, this is America. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Hey, by the way, Ross.
Ask John Ledger, though, at T-Mobile.
That's always been America.
No. You didn't have your own hotel across the street from the White House.
You didn't have Obama Hotel.
No.
But you had Obama private suite somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
And everything
You've
else.
never had your own hotel. I mean, Washington, Jefferson, they couldn't think of something as good as that, right? Well, I'll have a hotel.
What is it? Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Well, the T-Mobile merger is now in doubt, and John Ledger was criticized for spending so much time and money at the Trump Hotel. And I was like, John, because we're friends on Twitter. I was like, John, and now he's not friends with me because I've been criticizing him. But I'm like, go stay there another weekend. Go hit some golf balls.
This makes me think about. You have something to add to that?
So marijuana will be legalized either by the Democrats, Republicans, or both because there's too much money in it.
Don't get Lee too excited.
Billions. I have never seen so much money. So I deal mostly with public markets, but I see the private markets. And so what's happened here is
too big for the government to ignore.
You're going from a business that was illegal, that was doing $40 or $50 billion a year, to now it's legal, and legal people can now make this $40 or $50 billion a year, and we've got to get everybody to switch over. It's kind of like when iTunes came out. How do we get everybody who's downloading for free
ripping songs
to use
for free,
iTunes?
Pay $1,
and it's a big process to do that. So you've got companies like MedMen that came out of the gate. They're corrupt and all that,
but aren't they?
Supposedly. They're not struggling at all in the sense of growth. They're struggling in the sense of maybe honesty because there's so much money. See, when there's so much money in an industry like pot, you have two types of players, what we call crooks and honest people. And so it's very, very hard. The honest people that have gotten into the business, most of them are all business guys. Yeah. They're guys from Warren, whatever, and they see the opportunity. They don't smoke pot even. They're like the guy from Tilray. These are guys that are entrepreneurial, that see the business just like Alcar Tobacco. They have the same background.
See an opportunity.
And then you have guys who are like the ex-hippies who all of a sudden get like a $30 million funding round, and they're like, I guess 10 or 15 might disappear, so you got to watch out. A lot of deals are going down, and it's just like crypto where everybody gets so excited, and that's where people lose their money. you know,
course,
quickly.
there's always that the get rich quick scheme, and
yeah.
Speaking about marijuana, social media, and Tesla, what do you think when Elon went on Rogan and the stock went down 10%?
You know, Emily Chang asked me that
Lisa,
on Bloomberg on TV.
like that,
you know,
like-
she's like, well, what do you think about Elon Musk smoking pot? And I go, you know, what I really wanted to say, you know, I couldn't say, was like, really, Emily, like, you don't smoke pot, you know?
like it's such a big deal.
And she
Give me a
might not
break.
smoke pot. Actually, she's pretty straight. And but I, you know, this was during the time of the Me Too stuff really coming down, which blew my mind. Like there were stories that blew my mind, like what happened at CBS. And you know, and I said, you know, when your
With
CEO Les Moonves
Yeah,
has like he's raping girls in his office, and you're worried about smoking one puff with Joe Rogan on a podcast, like
So the
what is your
hypocrisy and the values are so
what
upside
matters?
down.
Like if I'm a shareholder of
Well, the world's
CBS, I'd
upside
be like
down,
filing
let's face
lawsuits
it.
left and right. Like people have lost a lot, billions of dollars because of Les and his group of wild men from the past, like 8 days or whatever, you know? It's unbelievable.
savages.
Totally. I mean, this is like a business, like a, you know, $30
casting
billion
couch.
company, you
The
know?
casting
Like I
couch.
can't even imagine, especially in this day and age too, you know, like I can't, I mean, everything's recorded, everything's done. I mean, look at this
sure.
Robert Kraft, you know, he's like,
Can't get away with anything.
he's like going to the massage parlor next to Mar-a-Lago
Yeah,
and
nailed.
boom. And they're like, we're releasing the video. And it's like, who's going to
Robert.
watch that, right? Like everybody.
It's gonna break the
Everybody.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be huge. They're like, why would they release that?
Like, of
It's like,
course
well,
they're gonna.
he doesn't want to plead guilty, you know?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's a whole.
So,
nother
anyways,
thing.
the Elon Musk smoking pot seems really minor relative to like Robert Kraft, you know?
So I just meant more along the financial side, how it, like the stocks dipped. Didn't the stock dip 10%? in a
Well,
day?
yeah, the stock has not done well because Elon doesn't give a crap, you know. So this, you know, I'm going up on Monday. I'm going to be up there, and
What do you mean he
and they're
doesn't give a
begging me to
crap?
talk to him. See,
He's
the
not
way-
driven by the stock price. Is that
No,
what
he's
it
not
is?
driven by the stock
Yeah.
price. Elon,
But he cares. He's obviously all in.
well, right, but so. He's a supremely confident fellow. You know, he's accomplished things that are hard to imagine. You
Yeah,
know, like
you c-
landing that Falcon Heavy with 3 rockets that actually come back to Earth and land.
Sure.
Is an engineering feat that I
Things
just
that
can't
people
even
would say are impossible or
they
things
are
that-
impossible.
and
it's
he
literally
figured it out.
impossible what he's done. And last year he almost killed himself getting the factory up. You know,
Yeah.
the Tesla was in trouble last year for
Hawthorne?
real.
It's in
no,
Hawthorne?
up in Fremont.
Oh, up north.
They just couldn't get production up. It was all screwed up. And this guy Jerome Gillian, who's running Tesla now, the operation part, kind of saved Tesla. He put up that, they call it the tent, but it's really a structure in the parking lot, and they just started making cars there.
started pumping them out?
He put up a regular car assembly line instead of all this robot crap they were
Yeah.
trying to do, and he saved the company and saved the really the financials of the company, and now their production is quite good. So Elon revels in causing controversy because on social media that's how you get views, and he has like 26 million fans, and it works for
He's
me
got a
too.
following,
And,
he's a brand, yeah, I get
and
it.
the thing is like people don't understand that's like a business strategy, like his fight with the SEC. What an idiot! Oh my god! And I'm like, dude, it's like the Rolling Stones. You know, they got arrested in 1966 and for drugs, and it was like
Yeah.
this whole scandal, and they're gonna put Mick Jagger in jail and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and it made them huge. You know, it was like they were huge after that. So saying "F you" to the government, especially in this day and age,
marketing
gets a
tactic.
lot of fans. Actually, you know, so social media is really weird. You know, I deal with this too. Like I was really
Yeah,
upset.
you're very controversial in what you say.
Controversial, and they make up complete lies about you and then just repeat it enough
That
so
people
that it
think it's
becomes
truth.
like a fact in their mind. You
What's the
know,
biggest lie they told you?
right now they're saying that I lied about where I went to college. So you know,
SMC, right?
yeah, no, you know, there's well, what they said is that I say that I went to Wharton, but I didn't go to Wharton. I went to Penn, and that's what I've always said. But
Yeah.
I took classes at Wharton. I have this thing called a concentration because I took a bunch of classes there. But they're like,
So
they
that's what
just
they're
say
talking-
that I said this.
Got it.
And it's
Well,
like,
isn't that interesting? Isn't that
and then
what's
they,
going
but
on
they,
in
but see, if
politics?
you post it and you post it and you post it, it's
You mean
like
fake news, Ross? Are we
right,
talking
but
fake
you know
news,
we counter
Ross?
it. Like we know how to counter fake news. So like I have a whole system that I can't talk about publicly to make sure that our interests are protected. And so like social media is a war. It's a war zone, and you have to be prepared to fight this war.
Well, you're very combative on it. You're all over it.
Yeah, but it's like today I had a tweet that went crazy. I'm up to almost 2 million views. It's about how much money you save on gas versus electric, which is about $200 a month, and that if you save that over the course of 10 years, you could actually pay for the Tesla for free. And so that went viral. And
this guy loves Tesla.
I want people to buy the car and stop driving around their Ford Explorers from '87.
I think you've got to be hired. You should be the VP of communications for Tesla.
That might happen.
You might need to retire.
I'm going up there on money. I might have to do that.
They should. They should be giving.
I don't really want to do that. I mean, it would be a big check. It would take a big check.
They would come after you big time.
I think that's part of the problem
on social media now. They'd be talking so much.
But so the way social media works, that kind of sucks, is that if people like what you do, they might push like. But if they don't like what they do, they say, "Oh, you're an effing whatever. You lie about everything. You're a horrible person."
So you're getting that all day long.
Well,
negative.
There's literally groups of people, from short sellers to oil industry people to car industry people,
that just
hate
are
me
going after you
and go after
me
all day. They
want to tear you down.
Yeah, they don't like me at all, and I do get threatened and stuff, and it's fine because it's social media. It's like it is what it is.
That's just part of what it is.
So it's a war. So and Elon's good at that war. I'm pretty good at it.
Social media has helped your business a lot, though, right? I mean, it's helped. So how do you reconcile being in a conservative financial business? Now, look, I know you from both. I know you more personally, your non-social media persona. I mean, you have a very conservative, no nonsense, smart approach, sort of with a modern twist in terms of your personality, your take on investing. Your social media persona is quite controversial and combative. You get on TV. I see
you fighting politics.
You're fighting with everyone. You're not afraid to bash anybody on any side of any political statement. I know you love Trump. So how do you reconcile that? You just feel like part of it is a persona and part of it, when it gets down to investing, it's a totally different world and you're focused.
People invest with me because I make money. So if I wasn't making people money, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't, exist. So, I would rather be a musician, to be honest.
Yeah,
so,
but
you can't make money doing that. So it's like, it was
hey,
like
we can
poverty.
Jam. We can jam out.
No, I have my band. I still play all the time.
The Danger
I played last
Band?
Saturday. I'm still recovering.
The Danger Band?
The Danger Band, yeah.
But he's an amazing blues guitarist and singer.
Yeah, it's sometimes exhausting, and you don't.
He's
really
trying
make
to
any money.
have the Jim Morrison live through him. Yeah. He lived in Venice for his whole stay. He had a hell of a run in Venice.
Single life. To that again.
That bachelor life in Venice that he lived was historical. It was a good run.
10 years ago.
That was a good run. Was it 10 years ago?
Yeah. So
I've been married 11 years, so that was the beginning of
I have this
living
philosophy
through Ross.
that my ultimate goal isn't just to be a rich guy. Okay, so in LA, like, you have all these rich guys. Okay, thank you. You're cool.
Like these guys.
No, I mean, you work your whole life, you have money, great. Thanks. We have. So to me, that's nice. But what can you do? What is your life about?
What's your purpose?
What is your life about? So, I've always wanted, so even as a musician, like, I wanted to make a difference. Like, so if I can build a company where I can help people, no matter what their wealth level is, save and invest their money, I can help a lot of people. We have 5,500 clients. We grow every day. Whether you have $0 or $20 million, we have a solution.
And that's really unique, because it's like
we're the only ones doing it, really.
You unless you're making millions or whatever.
It's $1 million minimum, or like 250 at Merrill Lynch or whatever. But like, if I'm going to help like people in your staff, which we have tons of clients like you guys,
these guys are rich. Don't
but
fool
you got to
yourself.
start somewhere. I started with zero. I started with those couple shares that I got when I was 13, and I saved and invest my money for the last, I don't know, 35 years or whatever. But if you start investing now in technology companies, for example, or real estate or whatever, you will be wealthy in 20 years, in 25 years. You can't expect that you're just going to get rich quick. We get a lot of clients who just like, I want to get into pot stocks because I can make, like 10 times my money or 20 times my money. And I'm like, yeah, you can also lose it all. And lottery tickets is not a way to build wealth. Like, you just have to accept time. Now, the good news is people are living a really long time. So you actually have things rigged in your favor. So when you think about, as long as we don't burn up, going back to climate change, but if we can avoid burning up, let's say the average lifespan might be 100 years now. So if a young person today takes care of themselves for the most part,
I think that's
and doesn't ride bird scooters too much, you might live to 100. Oh, you can die on those for sure.
Yeah.
I know. They don't tell you.
I can't stand. As much as I love the idea, they're littering they're littering our city.
I think it's a
they're
horrible
everywhere.
idea.
They're everywhere, and not just bird.
And
every
bikes
company.
and this and that.
Bikes that are on every corner. They're dropped
in front of your car. Listen, it's crazy. Anyways, I don't want to get into my bird rant, but so if we don't burn up, you've got time. And so if you're 30 today, like the fact that you don't realize you need to worry about like something when you're 68 or 70, that's when you really need to worry about money. So I have people come in, they're 70 and they got like 200 grand and I'm like, you're screwed. I mean, you're not retiring. It's like, a lot of like times it's real estate agents too.
I bet.
There's I have a couple clients like this. They're older women and they're independent and they just never saved a lot of money. And, they're still working and they're sort of like, what's my way out? I've got 250,000. I'm like, it just doesn't work. You're 65 years old. Like I can't make time up, so I do what we can. We try to help out and they sell a house here and there, and that's how they supplement their income. And that is retirement for 95% or 99% of people. Basically,
they have to just keep working.
There's some sort of work involved,
and income.
Hence the sharing economy. They call it the sharing economy. It's really sort of like I need extra money, right?
Yeah.
And it's sad because you do see a lot of these older people now working different places that aren't great jobs. And it's because they have to, and Social Security is definitely not enough. So all you guys can be very wealthy. There's nothing stopping you. And people get really mad when I tweeted that by accident. It was like I said something. It was very insensitive of me to say that.
You was insensitive?
Like, I was like kind of like there's no reason for people not to have money because no matter how much money you make, if you save something and you're in the last 30 or 40 years in the stock market have been amazing. Like if you just bought like anything in the stock market over the last 30 or 40 years, you've made a very good return. Yeah. And so if you just save like your $50 a month, $100 a month, and
some people can't. Some people
can't. A lot of people can't. I mean, you should. But most people don't want to. We have many clients that you would consider don't make a lot of money who save a lot of money.
Plenty, I'm sure.
Okay, and they figure out ways to do this. If 50% of the people, no matter what their income level, save money,
and vice versa,
50% don't. Actually, rich people are the most annoying clients. The worst. I'm like, dude, you make $1 million and you have nothing, and I do this all the time, and it's like. And they're like, well, I got this, I got that to pay for, I got this to pay for. I go, what? You think you're special? Everybody has those bills. You don't have a margin here, So before you go off to Mallorca for 4 weeks, maybe that 30 grand should go into your IRA or something, And they're like, horrible idea. I'm out, Ross. Yeah. And then, and I'm like, have fun in Mallorca. I'll be at work, Thanks for the Instagram photo,
Living large in the yacht with Pete Eddy. What's
people are like, oh, I should go to Mallorca more. I have all this money. I don't go anywhere.
Well, there you
I
go.
end up working.
Oh, there you go. And we have this conversation. I have this conversation with clients all the time.
Danny's a victim of overspending too.
Me?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 3 kids in private school. See, I sent mine to public school.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's probably good for them. Oh, $700,000 through 6th grade. So the fact that my kids go to public school, kindergarten through 6th, will save me and my wife $700,000.
At least.
$700,000. Now think about that. You're going on a tour of like Brentwood or Crossroads kindergarten, where they have like gold-plated basketballs, You know this, Danny, right? Like I literally, they're like, oh, check out the music room for your child, just in case it's Beethoven. We have Stradivarius violins, and and I was like, really, my kid just bangs on my guitar, And I was like,
the technology lab, the Bill Gates technology lab.
And you should see the drawing, the stage. Yeah. And it's like, Mary Poppins herself teaches here. And I was like, my kid's going to public school. And then the scandal broke, right? The college admissions scandal. This is my favorite thing in the world.
You must love talking about that.
I don't like talking about it because I kind of know some of these people, not directly, but it's our world. So I don't talk too much. But what I love about it is that they got caught. And that
they got
caught at a time where the government wants to show that everybody's equal.
Right. That's
and so it was a horrible time to get caught because any other time nobody
fine.
would care.
No one
You
cared.
know,
Like, yeah, they've
nobody
been
would
doing this for
ever
hundreds
care.
of years.
Oh, you
Payoffs?
bribed to say you're on the crew
Yeah,
team.
payola, is that
oh, my daughter's never thrown a javelin ever. It's like, really, little Cindy's 5'2", 85 pounds, and she's on the sumo team.
Yeah,
You know,
Jake
it's like, really, come
Schwartz is
on.
playing middle linebacker for USC.
This has been going on for ever. So now
Forever.
the government's probing this even deeper. It's great. It's great. So they're not just like going for the first group; they're going for
Deeper.
like everybody else. And I'm sure people are bribing their way into kindergarten for sure.
Oh, you think?
I went through this. I just went through it. I was so outmatched in that whole process because I thought people would just let my kid in for being smart.
Yeah,
I was like, don't you
less.
want the smart kids?
Oh, just another smart Jewish kid from the West Side.
Dad who might donate money. I don't know. Isn't that good enough? They're like, no, you didn't write like 40 letters and bribe your way in, I guess, You
didn't sponsor the new gym.
Yeah, public school.
Public school,
Yeah,
LAUSD. There you go.
Yeah, it's been great. Other than the attendance policies they have there, you can't take your kid to Hawaii, I guess. And then it's illegal. Actually, it's illegal. They can put you in jail.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, they were just saying Kamala Harris's biggest regret is signing into law the truancy laws that in LA, if you don't send your kid, if you take your kid to Hawaii for too long, they can put you in jail.
That could hurt you. Are you going to be on your yacht in Mallorca?
I got a very serious letter. This was after the teacher strike, and they were out for a whole week, right?
Or is that the
this was
Amalfi
Hawaii.
Coast?
This was Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii.
And they go, you can't just take your kid to Hawaii.
Are you serious?
And I said, I was going through a very tough emotional time, and I don't have an emotional support animal. It's my children. And they were like, oh, that's a good answer. And I was like, listen,
good answer.
I couldn't have a nervous breakdown. I was having a nervous breakdown.
So did they arrest you when you got off the plane from
No,
Hawaii?
they sent me a very sternly worded letter that I could be arrested.
You could be arrested
for truancy laws. And
at the Honolulu airport, they're coming to get you.
They did, I swear.
They're coming after you. Here he's America's
so then my
most
kid
wanted.
was sick. So then my kid's sick and puking. I'm like, you got to go. You got to suck it up, buddy.
So they go sick.
It was like Saving Private Ryan, like dragging him off the beach into his math
the
class.
consequence. Send your kid sick now because if you miss school, they're not going to do it.
The brilliance of the policy is then all the parents force their sick kids to go to school so they don't get in trouble.
All the time.
And then they get more people sick
so everyone's
and
sick.
less funding. So I tried to explain that theory to them. That didn't go over well. I was like, let me tell you an idea. One kid gets 5, kids 6, you lose 5 days versus the one kid you don't.
Unbelievable. We are tardy like every day. I don't know. We'll probably get expelled.
They shut the fence and lock it at public school.
No, it's, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that part of it.
We would be kicked out.
My wife is so bad at that stuff, so it's great watching her panic every morning. Every morning.
She's running. She's sprinting.
We gotta go. The bell's going.
Good thing she's fast.
Off. I'm like, geez, Marcus down 400, and you're worried about a bell.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I lost like 10 grand the last 5 minutes. Get there on time, honey.
Yeah, good luck. Get your chain cutters.
It's a good day. So markets rally. I'm
tell me the big picture about the markets and what you see going on and moving forward in the next couple of years and your take on both your firm and where it's going and the markets in general.
So I have bad news that I have to tell you that I think we're getting 4 more years of Trumpy.
They're not going to impeach him?
Oh, these Democrats aren't even smart enough to impeach the most corrupt president in American history. Like Nancy, what's her name, was like, oh,
you mean Pelosi?
Pelosi. Oh,
you love Pelosi.
No, I don't. It's political risk. It's too much. It's not worth our effort to impeach Donald Trump. It's too much political risk for us. And I was like, there has never been a worse, he's a horrible person. And he's caging thousands of children. It's embarrassing how bad we look every day in the government, in the world. And so here, this guy's super corrupt, and they don't want to go through it. They have a 400-page report about obstruction of justice, and I don't think Trump colluded. I think they were too dumb. I think that Mueller realized that Don Jr. and Donnie were just too dumb to really collude. Like they couldn't really prove it. They were more used by Russia than colluded.
So they didn't even know they were colluding.
No,
they were so
Putin
dumb.
is the smartest man on earth. I mean, this guy has destroyed England. He's screwed us
everybody.
up. Just with social media, Putin is
you
really
want to party with that guy, right?
No, he's weird, man. I mean, most world leaders today. If you look at most world leaders today, they're really messed up. I mean, we have the worst governments in the world with corruption and oh my God, it's Yeah. So
Anyway, I think one of the rules should be no politics, but this is so fun.
politics are great.
This is so fun to hear
we're going to
that.
get Trump for 4 more years, and that's good for your business, and it's good for mine, because the Democrats have this stupid notion that it's all rich people's fault. And so,
But Pelosi and the Democrats are rich.
well,
Clinton's
first of all,
are
Bernie Sanders
rich.
makes over $1 million
Bernie
a year.
Sanders is
Okay,
super
so this
rich.
guy's like,
it's
oh,
just
F
so
the 1%. I'm
hypocritical.
like, you are the 1%. You could
you're
have
the one of
donated
1%.
$950,000
Yeah.
to charity,
Right.
and taken the $50,000.
If you want to give back. No one's stopping you.
And it's like, oh
Nancy
no,
Pelosi
he gives nothing
stroke
to
a check
charity.
for
You know,
$10
I was
million.
like, yeah.
Clinton stroke checks
Listen,
for hundreds
all these
of millions.
politicians have money.
It's such a joke.
But it's more the concept that I have to be extreme left or extreme right.
Right.
And
Which is
most
just
people are
where nothing
actually in
gets
the
done.
middle. And
Yeah.
like, so we're all stuck on this train of
course.
extremes.
It's awful.
And so the solution to Trump isn't going to socialism, where we have to have a basic universal income and everybody gets health care, and all of a sudden this is starting to look really like a Mao type Chinese
wonderful.
thing, right?
Would
And I'm
love
like,
my children
you don't
growing up
understand.
in that.
Capitalism works. Like the marijuana business, for example, how many jobs are being created? How much opportunity? Capitalism works. I'm seeing people making a lot of money, kids making a lot of money, had nothing. You know, it's hard to make money. It's hard to get ahead.
For sure.
And it shouldn't
So
be
hard.
easy because, and then it wouldn't happen, you know. So we have to have a better system, and there's definitely flaws in our system. So to deny that, I think, is ignorant.
No, of course,
But-
of course.
But attacking people who are successful and expecting them to pay for everything or be, you know, some
While
sort
you're
of
attacking them,
and also like making capitalism not cool,
Like a bad thing.
is a bad philosophy, you know.
Yeah.
And we have so many examples of where socialistic ideas have failed, including France, which is a disaster. I mean,
It's
oh
falling
my
apart.
God. I mean, they're burning down their 800-year-old church even now. And it's like, it's not safe there for people like I'm a Jewish guy, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
not
that safe.
Jewish
and,
friendly
and,
there,
and,
for sure.
And people are unhappy, and you know, you have a system that was built around a very socialistic kind of idea. And you know, so capitalism works to me, and so to
course,
Trump's credit, you know, he is very pro business, and it is good for the
he's
economy.
a business guy, of course.
I don't know if he's a business guy.
Yes. What do you mean you don't know? Of course he is.
Come on, tell me something he's done that's worked. It certainly was
all of
casinos in New Jersey. How about that Trump casino in
He's
Vegas?
poor?
You think he's making
He's not
money?
a poor,
Well, he
wealthy
inherited.
guy?
His dad was very smart, shrewd.
He
bought
inherited
up-
all of it?
He
He didn't
inherited a
make
lot
money?
of it. His dad
His
gave him a
brand
bunch of
makes
money.
just his brand alone.
That's true, and he had a good run too. I'm not trying to take that away
Look,
from
he's
him.
a business
but
guy.
he was
Is
a
he a
TV
putz?
guy.
Is he an
Come on,
idiot?
he was a
Is he-
TV guy.
Yeah.
He
He's
was
an
a very
entertainer.
successful TV guy
For sure.
The Apprentice was his biggest
Huge.
thing. He was making tens of millions on that.
Huge.
You know,
But smart. As a
but
business, that's a
call
smart
it what it
business.
is. He was a
Whatever
good-
it is.
Yes.
He's a business guy.
He's
He's,
a
a schmuck.
marketing
He's
guy.
a putz. He
He's got himself
He
to
shouldn't
president.
talk. He just shouldn't talk.
I love what he says.
I know it's very
he's
entertaining,
hysterical.
but he shouldn't talk. It just gets himself into trouble.
He shouldn't be president. Is
Correct.
really the problem.
If someone wants to talk like that, you shouldn't be president.
About the theory why he got into running because of Gwen Stefani.
Oh, I thought it was because of Obama making fun of him or whatever. Yeah.
She was actually making more money than him in the same network. And he got mad. And the first campaign thing that he did, as it was a joke.
Gwen Stefani.
And then I ended up,
That would
people
piss
were
me
eating
off.
it up.
When Gwen Stefani made more money than me,
That
I
was
got
it?
pissed.
Yeah,
of
that's-
all people, right?
Yeah.
Now it's amazing the jealousy in a network. You know, when you're on TV, you kind of see it. Like I'm not threatening
They're
to them because
they're
I'm not trying to
competing.
get their job. Yeah, but like every minute,
Are you
know,
kidding?
every show is like a war for these people. They care a lot. You know. That's why attacking the media is a very bad idea, actually, because they care a lot, you know, about what they're doing. But going back to the economy and stuff in the markets, it's all predicated around interest rates. So my basic theory right now is I was very bearish last year about the Fed, and the Fed has a very difficult job because we're coming out of an unprecedented period of time in post recession in that we printed money and we had zero
Yes.
interest rates. And when you have zero
Quantitative
interest rates, you create certain
easing is-
types of behavior that can be dangerous. And because of lending laws, we didn't really see too much dangerous behavior because it was too hard for them to do that. And so we really got ourselves a pretty good economy. But with that, we created certain things that are very different than the periods before it. And
You're
in the
right.
periods before it, we had inflation that would average 3 to 4% and growth at 3 to 4%. And there were certain expectations. But because of technology and because of companies like Amazon and globalization, inflation essentially is not an issue. And so with the Fed thinking that their main goal is to fight inflation, they essentially have to understand that this inflation isn't really coming very easily. So even though we've printed trillions and trillions of dollars into the system, a lot of that just went right back into treasury bonds for safety because people aren't comfortable investing and growing their businesses because they're so insecure. So we never really got that super growth. We still really haven't gotten it, even with tax reform. And so companies are so conservative about allocation of capital. It's unbelievable. There's so much cash. It's
So
really
there's just
it's
billions
unbelievable.
sitting on the
So much
sidelines.
cash. And so, you know, so when the Fed raises interest rates, it sucks all that cash up and that it makes it invest even less, right? And then you get a lot of times a recession. So almost every difficult time economically is predicated by the Fed going too far. Very good Fed people, Alan Greenspan, Bernanke, whoever, they go too far. And Powell was about to do that. So in December when he raised rates, the market collapsed, stock market collapsed, real estate was dropping like a stone. Who's going to go buy a house? You know, it's like, oh my God, you know, interest rates keep going higher. So with the way they were pricing things, we were predicting real estate would drop 20%. Now, if real estate drops 20% because rates go up, let's say relatively 20%, that vastly dampens economic activity. So real estate is an incredibly important driver of economic activity. There's probably no more important driver in every economy in the world. So if you don't see cranes, you're not growing, right? So when you go to like New Orleans, which is one of my favorite cities, they just don't have a lot of economic activity there. You don't see construction. You see buildings still beat up from the hurricane or this or that. And you're like, why aren't they fixing this stuff?
Beat up,
and it's just not economic for them or this or that. And so it's not growing. And then you go to downtown LA and you try to just go anywhere, right? And it's like cranes. And so you can tell how good a country's doing by how many cranes they have, kind of how many caterpillars they have driving around. Kind of a nightmare, actually, how good it is because there's so much construction in LA, which is my least favorite thing because everywhere I live, there's always construction. Like you
traffic,
can't get
noise,
around it. And in one sense, I hate these people. In the other sense, I'm like, this is the economy.
It's better than the alternative.
Right, when there's no cranes and you're poor. So this, to Trump's credit, you know, he's like banging on Powell because he knows, geez, if we have a recession, I'm never going to be back here again, and all my Republican friends will probably get hung. So we got to stop this from happening. And just to say, myself on TV and many other people felt that with unprecedented period in history, the Fed has no incentive to fight inflation that doesn't exist. And one day, so Powell went on TV with, he was with Yellen and Bernanke. And I think that afternoon, Yellen took him and shook him, you know, because Yellen, I think, is the smartest economist, you know, ever. And Trump fired her or whatever, got her because he said she was too short. Too short. Yeah. Like, I can't have a short.
Is that code for too smart?
Listen, he looks at people. He goes, "You're successful. You're not successful." He's like, "Why did you decide that?" I like your shirt.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, great, thanks. You're right. I am successful now. So Yellen shook him and said, "Look, things are different. Stop doing what you're doing." You know, and they stopped. And the minute they stopped raising rates, it was like the economy sort of just was like, oh, thank God. Right. And it like immediately started picking up, like immediately, because everybody was holding back cash. Everybody's holding back. We're preparing for the recession. I'm selling everything because I'm like, I don't want to lose all my clients' money. I've done this game, you know? And so the minute you know that the Fed's done, which they've now said, then this capital goes right back into the markets, it goes right back into construction, goes right back into new economic activity. And then the second thing is the trade thing with China. So the trade thing with China is one of the most important things that's happened economically in as long as I can remember. What the Chinese have been doing over the last 5-10 years is building companies that are better than ours. So they built Tencent and Baba and every company that we have, they have a version of that's better. And so they knew that they had to protect their economy and their competition so that they could get big and strong enough and wealthy enough to compete on a global level. And if they let America in too soon, we would just gobble them. Okay, and they were absolutely right. That is absolutely what was going to happen. So the global trade agreements as they existed are incredibly unfair to America. They just are. We have this philosophy of exporting our capital to help grow other countries that will eventually be our customers, and then these countries don't eventually become our customers because they make their own stuff. And this is Europe as well. And it's so abusive. It's like you go to Europe and you look for any American products, it's like nothing.
Doesn't exist.
If you go to China, you do have American products actually in China, but very few. You have you can get it like a Pizza Hut, or whatever.
Can you get a pair of Nikes?
Yeah, you can get Nikes, you can get Apple. So the big brands are in China, and they covet these brands.
Right.
So
They'll
the Chinese knew this. They love American brands. They love our culture. They name their cities after our cities. China and America have absolutely no reason to have conflict. We've been allies. We were allies in World War II. They're trading people. They've never invaded other countries and stuff. They look at English history versus like Chinese history. They weren't imperialists.
They've been a good neighbor.
Well, they're traders. They want to do business. And so they now know that they got caught with this bully Trump who isn't going to deal with this negotiation stuff.
Yeah.
And the great thing about having a crazy bully is it's very hard to negotiate with these people. And so even Kim Jong-un, said, I don't want Papineau. I don't know if you saw that. He's like, he's too tough on me,
Yeah.
And so Trump put these tough guys on this deal, and the Chinese actually respected this. This is the part I didn't understand. And once I started talking to more Chinese people, see, they actually respect that. They respect authoritarianism. That's their system.
Yeah.
They don't respect democracy. Democracy is a horrible idea. Let people vote. Why the hell would you do that?
Right.
In China,
Let's tell them what to do. They don't know better.
No, it's not. Chinese are very smart people, but they're perfectly fine being tracked and monitored by their government. They have no personal freedoms, and they think of the world less as individuals like we do. So they don't mind these things. So the things that we care about are just a little bit different than the way Chinese people think about things, especially individual rights. So now that this trade deal is actually going to be good, and actually, I hope really even the playing field, it will be a huge boon for America because it will open up more markets for China, but it will also create a lot more activity between the United States and China. And for companies like Disney,
massive
Nike, you mentioned Apple, even things like real estate, like how many U.S. real estate companies do business in China? How many financial companies do business in China? We would love to do business in China. We have Chinese people. I'm on China State Television. It's like, how do I get a Chinese client? What form do I fill out, right? Well, good luck, right? It's like, what's the system? If J.P. Morgan can't do it easily, why can I? But a Chinese bank can open up here.
We got the Joe Bao connection.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yes, seriously. You got to acquire some partner, right? But if China and America work together, the power of that economically is enormous. It will create enormous wealth for both societies over the long term because it gives us growth and it gives them expertise. It gives them it's like
a balance.
They learn a lot from us, we learn a lot from them, and now they're developing really cool technologies. And companies like Tencent, which we have an investment in, are just super interesting company, wonderfully managed. The people there work super hard. And now they're sort of catching on with where the world's going, and they're going to be leaders there. So if fighting them makes no sense. I mean, Europe has so many problems I actually think the EU is doomed, and the future is Asia and the United States.
That's it. So let's get to more fun stuff before we wrap up. What albums are you liking? What albums do you like? It doesn't have to be new. Let's get to your music.
I'm not going to talk about Zeppelin, but
no, let's get into like more recent of at least the last decade.
I read this article that the guitar solo is dead, and rock bands are kind of like classical music now, and kids today, are sort of fine with the experiences they're given, which are basically like music videos by Beyonce instead of like rock shows. And I disagree with this. And bands like Greta Van Fleet have come out, and younger bands, rock and roll. And I do think things go in cycles.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm concerned about is that the music industry has become so video focused and such, and so less performance focused, that we don't want to lose artists. And you see this problem like wealth inequality, where you have horrible wealth inequality among artists. And if we don't support our culture, then we lose it. And that's how you got EDM kind of,
Yeah.
So the idea is we have to have venues for, let's say, musicians to survive. And Hollywood's a perfect example. Now that there's 20 streamers and there's so much work, they're making like 550 shows or making tons of movies.
There's so
like
much
if you're in
content,
Hollywood
there's so
right
many
now and you're a
places.
writer and you're an actor or whatever, there's more money going into that than
Many
I've
more
ever seen.
opportunities,
Ever.
yeah.
There's so many companies. I mean, do I work for Disney? Do I work for Apple? Do I work for who? And it's like, oh, we're going to invest $1 billion or $2 billion. Netflix, I think, is investing like $12 billion or something in content.
Yeah.
And it
They're a
never
major
existed
studio.
before.
They're a major studio.
But if you're in
now.
the music industry, they're like, oh, we're making more money than ever thanks to Apple and streaming. But the artists aren't. The artists aren't. And like Spotify went public, is worth, let's say, 24 billion. How much did the artists get?
Yeah.
But Spotify only exists because there's 5 million songs on it, but they only pay, let's say, 50 of the 5 million people or songs on Spotify. So you've got this system where, as an artist, I sign up for these services because I like the eclectic music. Like, I love the fact that I can download
Any
anything.
song from anywhere.
Any
Yeah, me
genre. I'm really into this today.
Yeah, you're a true fan. You're a true music lover
like
of
Miles
all genres.
Davis. I've been listening to Miles Davis. Miles Davis is amazing.
Of course,
okay?
Kind of
And,
Blues, one of my
Kind of Blues,
top
what everybody
5.
kind of knows, but if you like, it's one of the best albums ever.
Yeah.
But if you just start going through random Miles Davis, you will find some
Bitches
really,
Brew.
See,
That's a good one.
crazy stuff. And Birth of Cool is what I was
Birth
listening
of
to today.
Cool is incredible. I mean, look, it could anything. There's
But
so much.
how
It's
much
so
does
deep, that
Miles
catalog.
make, let's say, a year on streaming? And it's probably nothing, right? And so it's like, but the fact that that's on there is the reason I pay $10 a month. And yeah, I don't listen to pop music, and I get that millions of people listen to pop music like this Billie Eilish. I'm listening to this Billie Eilish. It's good. I mean, it's not for me, but I get. Isn't that their person's name? Yeah, and Eilish.
Eilish,
Yeah, she played here in Venice too. Local artist.
Venice.
She
Your
literally
spot.
went from zero to incredibly wealthy overnight. So to credit, okay, you have the internet, you can
Technology
be huge,
can do that for you. The
and it's super cool.
social
I
media
mean, it's a
platforms.
new music sound. I kind of like it. It's not for me per se, but it's not bad either. There's some bad music out there. No, it's pretty good actually. And she like killed Coachella. And she
Yeah.
was 20 minutes late and forgot the words to
You
her
were
song.
at Coachella?
No, I go every year. This was the first year I didn't go.
You're still going to that godforsaken
No, I
festival?
have free tickets, and like I know the owners, so I have a very good experience there. It's I don't have to do what other people do.
With the Hagans?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're close friends of our family too.
yeah, they're wonderful people. Thank you, Hagen family.
Yes.
for all these years, and I really appreciate it.
Well, that's worth it then. If you go on the
because
VIP
when you
Hagen.
can have the cart take
Yes,
you in
yes,
the back
that's what
instead
we've
of
done too, but I just can't do
it's
it
a better
anymore.
experience.
I can't do it
And
anymore.
parking, we can park up there in the artist parking lot. It's like. So
I
my
can't
favorite
handle
thing
the
is actually
crowd.
hanging out in the artist area because although it's no fun anymore, artists aren't any fun anymore. It's not like Led Zeppelin days where you see like people falling out drunk and
Yeah, partying,
weed
hanging
going
out.
everywhere. You
Yeah.
like go in there, everybody's working and serious, and
Yeah,
you're
so
like, dude,
serious.
it's a job. Yeah, it's a job. Music's a job. It's not. You think you watch these documentaries, right? So rock and roll has to survive, and what they're doing is they're starving artists who put their music on the platform, and people do listen to it here and there. But in the scope of how much they listen to relative to Taylor Swift, you get zero.
Got
So it's like. And the same goes with Coachella. So let's say like 150 bands play,
Right.
like
The
they cover your
headliners.
costs, let's say, but like, do they really make money? Like, how many really make money? And it's like none,
Very
other than
few.
those top like
Headliners,
couple
yeah.
lines, and then they make like huge money. So like Ariana Grande probably makes $3 million for her crappy set, and it's like there's a really good band that played for like cost, basically.
Yeah.
That's 4 things down, and it's just not fair. And not that life has to be fair, but like you want to have a system that encourages artists to
Development,
exist like a farm league. And so like I think there should be a mandatory minimum payment to every artist on Spotify and Apple Music. It should just be $5,000 a year mandatory minimum. It's like your music on here, they should curate it. They shouldn't just let everybody on there. You know, they should say, look, you're an artist, I like your music, people listen to you, here's a minimum payment.
A barrier of entry,
because
and if you get a barrier of
we're
entry,
getting the benefit of the diversity of our catalog by having you on it, no matter how much people listen to it.
Yeah.
And then when you go to Coachella, there should be, I mean, maybe there
Minimums
needs
for-
to be like a union. Like, do you see what the writers are doing
not
right now?
another
The
union.
writers,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, but
Another
like,
strike.
if you can't get a fair deal, you have
The
to do
writers
that.
are trying to battle packaging.
They fired all the agents.
Yeah,
Now
no
this
more
is insane.
packaging.
This is the dumbest idea ever.
I think it's ridiculous.
So they fired all their agents.
Yeah, 'cause they don't wanna
all
pay
the
packaging
writers.
fees.
Okay. No. What
Yeah.
they're pissed about, which is rightful, is that it's the same thing. All this wealth is flowing down, and who's getting it? The agencies, right? So IMG or whatever wants to go public, or CAA wants to go public. I mean, these guys are talking $4 or $5 billion valuations, and you got a bunch of writers making $100,000 a year writing great shows. Okay, so they're pissed, and they don't get royalties from Netflix and stuff. See, remember, if I wrote a good show like MASH or something like that, I could be 83 and I'm still getting like $400,000 a year in royalties.
Yeah.
When you're on Netflix, there's no royalties. So every show today, they just pay you out. So you get paid more. So they're like, oh, we paid you $50,000 or
Upfront more, but
$70,000,
you're not getting the back
you
end.
don't get the income for life. And
Yeah.
part of being an actor or writer back in the day was if you did a good commercial, if you did
Yeah.
a good show, it
The
could pay you for
royalties.
the rest of your life. And these people aren't the most responsible savers, right?
Yeah.
So by changing that system, it screws writers, and so you get lucky once a career. You write Laverne
Get
and
a big
Shirley.
hit.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I wrote The Simpsons. You know, I've known people like this who made fortunes working on one show. You know, that was a hit. You know, like the Seinfeld money just never ends.
plenty
You
of
know, or
people on
whatever, or
TV.
Friends or whatever. Like imagine
Most
if you were
TV
the
people
third.
that produced or created those shows, that's why very few of them
Yeah,
made
and
several.
then they
but
remake like Hawaii Five-0. I mean, think about it. There's
Start all
probably
over
some
again?
guy who wrote Hawaii
Getting
Five-0
checks,
who's loaded,
huge
right?
checks.
Who like nobody would even know,
Yeah.
you know? But he wrote the show in 1984, and they decided to keep doing it today, right? So that doesn't exist anymore, and many people are being heavily enriched on the production agency side, and they are packaging, and packaging makes sense. You know, they put it's called self-dealing. So
Yeah.
Expecting ethical behavior in Hollywood is like, I mean, you know, it's like going to a casino and expecting to win money, you know, and it's like, it's foolish.
Famous last words. That'd be good on a T-shirt.
But see, the problem is like firing all the agents. So what is your next option now?
You're going to go to another
Like,
agent. It's-
No, you're not. It's called collusion. You think all these agencies are going to hire? No, they're all going to cut them all off. Because how much money did the writers save for their strike?
Yeah.
Zero. Every time you see a strike, they lose every time. Why? Because the people don't save money. They don't have money. And then how many weeks am I not going to work?
Right. At some point, they got to
Right?
go back to work.
3 weeks. Now, the owners are like, oh,
We'll wait it out.
I'll sit here in the Palisades in my house. How long till the writers start calling again? 59, 58, 57. And it's like, all right, I'm hungry. And
Let's
I
do
don't
it.
like a real job. See, that's the other thing. How
like a
many
real
writers are going to go start working hard, you know, down at the restaurant or down, you
Yeah.
know, at my office? They can come in. You know what time I get up? 5:30.
They wanna
Writers,
come Gerber Kawasaki. There you
writers,
go.
I'm hiring right now. You know,
They come here,
on
they
in.
can come door
I got
knock.
up early. We work 12 hours. It's fun. You know, you take financial risk every day. Yeah, you know, so the writers have it pretty good, but they're not in a position to negotiate. So,
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's another disaster. Any other funny stories you can share with us? What's like the most craziest, funniest TV story experience? Do you have anything that comes to mind before we wrap this sucker up that you can share?
I can't share, you know, so I was on a Fox show and it turned into a sexual harassment lawsuit between another one of the guests and
you?
the host. No,
Oh, no.
I was just on the show.
You were just
too.
a witness.
I knew all the parties involved. And I won't use names here, but it was a Fox show. And I'm the only liberal allowed on Fox, and I haven't been on a lot lately because they finally, I think,
You're
figured it
not
out.
really a liberal.
I'm a total liberal. I believe in all liberal causes, pretty much.
Oh, please.
I do.
So we're going to tax you.
Other than money.
We're going to tax you 80%.
No, you tax me 53. Isn't that high enough? I mean,
no,
it's
you're
more than half
liberal.
my
Let's
money.
go to 80.
Well, that's not liberal.
Can't have it
No,
both
liberal
ways.
to me is
Can't
like,
have it both ways,
should
Ross.
immigrants be allowed into the country? Are you pro or anti-gay?
Can we send them to Venice to hang out
Should people
with you?
allowed to have service dogs in restaurants? I don't know. It's like
All right, forget it, the politics. Let's get back to Fox.
So I was on
Me
the
Too
show, and
lawsuit.
so there was this woman on the show, and so I would go into the green room, and I was like always amazed because these other guests, it's a financial show, and they had no financial background at all.
What do you
And
mean?
Especially this blonde woman who was on the show all the time. And
she's talking about financial.
she's
this
talking
and
about
that.
finance and talking all kinds of smack, and she
she's-
doesn't know anything. Okay, and I'm like, how
It's
is
just a
this?
pretty face, let's put her in
I'm
front of
on
the
the
camera?
show, like I can, I'm a legit guy here in this business, and there was like one or two other guys, but then there was like two or three other guests that were just like
Not financial experts, just
no, they pretended. They were pretending like this woman. So I go, how does this woman get on this show? And I try to befriend all these people before, you don't know who they are, how crazy they are. So you just, on TV, you just try to be nice to everybody in the green room and, maybe get lucky and they're not crazy. So, so I'm trying to figure this out. I'm on the show, and then they ask these financial things, and these people don't know anything. And then people in my office were like, "Why are you on this show? It's like a bunch of idiots." And I was like, honestly, I don't know how these guests get picked, right? Well, one day, an intern was like, let me tell you a story, She goes, oh, so-and-so is sleeping with so-and-so. And I was like, I couldn't have guessed.
and that was one of the financial non-experts that were talking financial.
Right.
experts.
That's how she was on the show.
She was sleeping with somebody on the show.
She was sleeping with the host. So her strategy was this is how she was going to get her own show. So what happened was,
Pretty good strategy.
It's
worked before.
No, she was on the show. She was on all
it
the
worked
time
for her.
and she was flying up from like Kentucky or something to New York to do the show all the time for no money. And I was like, why would you do this? Like you don't even have an investment business or anything. Like I'm trying to promote my business.
Right.
So she was trying to get her own show. So
right.
Fox
Plenty of
one
people do
day decides to kind of look in. People were complaining, I think, or something.
Oh,
so
it was
they decide to
getting bad?
look in. They go, we got to look into the backgrounds of these guests. So of course they call me and they go, will you be on every day this week because we're running low on guests?
Yeah, they started eliminating
It's
guests.
like all of a sudden
You got a lot of work all of a
So
sudden.
now that somebody checked, this host has been picking his
there's-
buddies.
there's
and
very few
and
left.
This woman, now the host is married.
You're the
This
last
is not
man
good.
standing.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
This is not good. Now, of course, I'm told the whole story by this intern, which I don't want to know.
Yeah, you're like, please, I wish I didn't know
Although
this.
it's pretty good. And so I'm like, this guy's an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would he
What
ever
a
do
jackass.
Like, you know how when you look at somebody and you go, that person's going to be a problem for somebody, and so stay away from them, and then that person hooks up with them? You're like, you are nuts, right?
Yeah.
So sure enough, what do you think Fox does? They kick her off the show.
Then the lawsuit comes.
Huge lawsuit.
Too.
Huge Me Too story. Huge thing. And I'm like,
Oh, and
I actually felt bad for the guy because, it was completely consensual. I knew the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like saying a small prayer that nobody would call me
gotta be so
like the investigating people
careful.
on Fox. So they investigate this host for a while. And
Did you get called to
No,
the-
and I was like, I did.
You're like, please
people
don't call
didn't
me.
know
Please
that
don't
I
call
knew.
me.
This is the first public airing of the story.
Oh, God, they're calling you now.
It's on Compass, so hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, Fox doesn't listen. But no, but they dealt with it. Actually, Fox wasn't the issue. It was the host, and they dealt with it, pretty professionally, actually. But they did an investigation, and I was like, this guy's done, because it was like everybody was getting kicked out of every company, and he was done. But I knew he wasn't really guilty.
But you're done anyways. In this day and age, you're done.
Not at all.
Really?
They did the full investigation. They
would think
let him
you're
keep
done.
his job. He's back on the air. He's doing great. And they kicked her off. She lost, and now she's on Russian television.
There she goes. She's got a huge show in Moscow.
And her agent is that scumbag dude who sold out Jeff Bezos, Sanchez.
Oh, come on.
Yes. Just how much scum can fall into the same tree. It's unbelievable. So her agent was the guy who sold the text messages of Jeff Bezos that he stole from his own sister for $250,000, and he's her agent and got her on Russian television
classic.
of all places.
Classic sleaze.
So that is the craziest story I've got.
That's fantastic.
So far.
We could go on forever, but man, we talk renewable energy. The beaches are gone.
Yeah.
The world is burning. The financial markets. What else? I mean, Venice Beach.
0% of people will listen to this top to bottom, but that's okay. Usually they break it up.
I hope I don't get threats. I think you just broke the podcast, Ross Gerber.
It's like a Netflix series. You got to take it in like 6 parts.
Dude, good to see you as always, man.
Yeah, good
we'll
to see
hang
you too.
again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Good to have you,
Yeah.
man. Oh, yeah. that was good stuff.
You know what? Yeah, listen. I am what I am today, 'cause I did it my way. Nothing y'all can say. In this life or the next one. Watch me, I'm gonna be the best. I am what I am.
Thank you, Ross Gerber. It's always fun hanging out. Hopefully we'll catch up again soon. You can always find Ross Gerber, everywhere on TV, CNBC almost every week. But you can find him on at Gerber Kawasaki or gerberkawasaki.com. That's their firm. You can always find me at DannyBrownLA.com and on Instagram at DannyBrownLA. And we have lots of cool guests coming up. Hope you enjoyed this, and just remember we're now releasing short personal anecdotes, the deal from my life and from my business, every other week, a little short one, and then the next week we come back with a full-blown interview. So keep listening, please subscribe, let other people know about it, and we really appreciate the support. All right, talk to you soon. Thanks.